Hello. I just would like to show you what can be done with our bank feeds and bank reconciliation API. Yep. So what I have in here is that if I go to bank reconciliation, for example, and if I choose this bank account, essentially what will happen is that you'll be seeing like an XML file here that will be created through the bank feeds API. So similar to, we're probably familiar with the upload of CSV import. So an XML is also another option to have your bank transactions being shown in intact during bank reconciliation. All right, so if API is possible to retrieve bank transactions, then you can make use of these requests basically. So let's have a look at this sample that I have here. So you have the API in here. I just have this application wherein I can just key in the API. So this is the object itself, is the bank account, transaction feed in there. So you just have to identify the bank account that these bank transactions are referring to. So bank feed date in here. So I have, in this example, I have the 7th of June. So just take note that the date format is actually in US format. So it's DDYY. So in this bank feeds API, you will see here like three sets of records. So I have this first set in here, which is dated 5th of June 2023, which is a withdrawal. And I have here 6th of June, which is also there should be a withdrawal as well from here. And I have here 7th of June 2023. So I have here a deposit this time. All right. So this is actually based on the documentation that is available for you. So I just changed the values in there and just we'll be making use of this one here. All right. So this is the API again for the bank feed. So once it's available, you can retrieve this information and just trigger this API basically to create those um, bank feed transaction for you. So just take note though that anything that you will be creating through the API as bank feed, they will not be showing up under your cash management bank transactions in here because the bank transactions are just coming from direct bank feed basically, or the bank feed itself, not coming through the API in here. So the bank fee that will be coming from the Sage Banking Cloud that will be showing in here. So anything that you import basically will not be reflected in that screen, but that will come up in the bank reconciliation. All right. So let's have a look at this one here. So I have here this request. So I'll just click on send request just for this to be processed. All right, let's have a look at the timestamp as well in there. So this should have been it was a success. So the XML should have been created. But so this is just the API for the bank feed, right? So if you have a look at the bank transaction, let's have a look here. So cash management bank, let's leave that one there and let's select 400 SVB. So let's look at the import file in here. If running the API already creates or shows the XML. So it's not here yet. So we need to um, to do another process. So anything that you created through API as for the bank feed, you have to trigger as well the API for the bank reconciliation. All right. So this is the sample API for a bank reconciliation. So this is the bank account that we will be reconciling statement ending date. So I think from the from the bank feed. We have it from the 7th, right, of June. So I'll just copy it, a statement ending in 7th of June, 2023. So cutoff date, so maybe just choose like a day before our sample. So in our end, we have 5th of June. So I'll just select here 4th of June as cutoff date, which is like typically should be the last day of the last bank reconciliation from your old system or from previous reconciliation. So statement end date, statement ending balance, we'll just retain it as 1892. So we have here, notice that we have the mode as automatic review. So what does it say? So just based on the documentation, this automatic review is giving us the option. So basically, once you trigger it, you will have the option to manually reconcile through this interface. All right. So it will do the auto match for you based on your bank rule and bank, type or set that you define on the, or matching rule rather, that you define on the bank account. So if that's the case, then it will, you have two options basically. You have the auto match, which means that um, Intact will create, will attempt to create like a bank reconciliation for you. But if you would like to have that option, meaning the bank feed transaction will try to be matched to your Intact transaction, and you still have the control basically to see what has happened and just going through this screen basically, which is the normal bank reconciliation, right, or the typical bank reconciliation process. Then you just have to select automatch review as a mode. All right, so this automatch, this API just triggers or shows the XML as well in this bank reconciliation screen. Because earlier, right, so if we go to have a look at this one here, nothing is coming up when we select, let's say, from the fourth, right? So import, nothing is here, right? So what does this API do too? So what will happen is that this is just the API that you will be triggering. So any information that you have in here will be shown in these fields as well in the reconciliation screen, like beginning balance cutoff date. So this screen, like statement cutoff date, that should have been showing in there. Statement ending balance, a statement ending date. That this should be that one too, and the balance should be coming up there, plus the XML as well that has been generated previously through the BankFeed API. All right, so let's trigger this bank reconciliation API with the modus automatic review. So we'll be able to check basically the bank reconciliation through UI manually. All right, so if I click on send request, all right, it looks to be a success as well. All right, so let's have a look now. Since we've chosen to be automatic review, if we go back again from scratch, so cash management, all reconciliation bank, and if we select that bank account, so notice this one here, right? So beginning balance, we mentioned earlier, we have the beginning balance cutoff date, which is the 4th of June. So this is that date, 4th of June, while the statement ending date, which is the 6th of or 7th of June. So we have that one here as well. So notice these dates are actually in US format. So ending statement balance 1842. We have that 1842 there as well. But let's have a look at the import file in here. All right. So this is great. So now earlier before triggering this API function or API for bank reconciliation, nothing was coming up in this screen. And now the XML is already showing here. So the XML is actually the result of the XML that has been triggered by the bank feed reconciliation that we triggered earlier. All right, so if you click on done through bank reconciliation, then you can proceed normal bank reconciliation there. So if there is like a bank rule, bank set for matching or create rule, then it will just be created for you. And what's importantly is like, let's have a look at the bank tab in here. All right, so if I just select all, all here for state transaction type and apply filter. So notice all these transactions, right? So you have three transactions dated 5th, 6th, and 7th. And we have here checks, right, for 184 or debits for 184 to 11.14 and a credit for 2000. So these are the bank feed transactions that we defined through the earlier API. This one's here, 184 to 11.14 as withdrawal and 2000 here as deposit. So that's the one. So if there is anything that matches, with intact transaction, then it should be tagged as auto matched as well in this case. But I know for a fact that I don't have any further transactions. So if you have a look at all here, if I click all for state and transaction type as all, I can only see like auto entry because I don't have any bank transactions, unfortunately, during these dates. But I hope this is clear that, once you trigger the API for the bank reconciliation, then the bank feeds are being shown to you here, and automatch will be or matching against this to the bank to the intact transactions will be done for you based on your defined bank rule or bank uh, you know um, rule set for matching. Okay, so just to summarize, so what will happen is that using APIs for bank feed and bank reconciliation. So you have here the bank feed for the bank transactions. So if you are having, let's say, a weekly upload, or with the API that's being done on a regular basis, that's okay. So what will happen is that in here it will just keep on incrementing the XML file. So if you have, let's say, in a month, you have triggered the XML for, for first week, second week, third week, fourth week of the month, you can do that. You can create bank feeds, and the XML feed will just be incrementing in here. So you'll see here 4 files basically. So you can trigger, for example, what I mean is that you have the API bank feed for the first, second, third, fourth, and yeah, just um, trigger those APIs. And once you do the bank reconciliation, let's say at the month end, and you will see the XML files in here for you, like for increments, if ever, if there are like 4, bank feed batches. And so yeah, yep. So once the bank feed API is done, then you just have to trigger the API for bank reconciliation. But you have two options in there. You have auto match, which means that Intact will try to create a bank reconciliation for you. So if it's not matching, meaning the ending balance versus the GL would not match, then you'll just be receiving like an error in there. You cannot actually like save that bank reconciliation. But if you have that option if you use the option auto match review, then you will be able to match accordingly, create intact transactions if necessary. Those which are not appearing in intact but in your bank account. So yeah, just like the normal ones. So basically, if you use automatic review, then you'll be able to access the uploaded bank feed API through the reconciled bank account screen that you are seeing at the moment. So hopefully this quick demonstration helps. Thank you.